Lasconcorla. Can I ask the Minister for Transport if his attention has been drawn to the considerable disruption and inconvenience that has been caused to commuters on the Maynooth M3 Parkway line, the Northern Commuter line, the New Bridge and Hazel Hatch line, the Houston Commuter line, my own line coming in from Mullingar and Longford, the Sligo line. If your attention has been drawn to the disruption as a result of the new timetable that has been introduced by Irish Rail on the 9th of September, and if you could advise the House what measures your department is going to take to address these long delays.
I'd like to thank the Deputy for this very topical question. As Minister for Transport, Tourism and Sport, I have responsibility for policy and overall funding in relation to public transport. I am not involved in the day-to-day operations of public transport. As the Deputy is aware, the operation of Éireann services, including the new timetables on the dot, is a matter for the company, with oversight by the NTA, the National Transport Authority. One of the features of Dublin's future transport infrastructure that is proposed in the NTA's transport strategy for the GDA 2016-235 is implementation of the full DART expansion programme. The DART expansion programme is a series of projects that will create a full metropolitan area DART network for Dublin, with all the lines linked and connected. While interlinked, the projects will also have benefits as standalone projects. The National Development Plan 2018-27 includes delivery of the priority elements of the overall DART expansion programme. Also, by optimising the delivery of both passenger and network benefits through a large NDP capital investment that builds first on optimising the existing rail infrastructure, there should also be better value for money for the taxpayer. As part of the DART expansion programme and the move to a 10-minute frequency for DART services, Éireann introduced a new timetable on Sunday the 9th of September to provide for enhanced DART frequency. Éireann has stated that the new timetable provides for a 28% increase in overall DART capacity and moves from 156 services per day to 195 services per day. The company also indicated that the more frequent off-peak DART was introduced as a direct response to market research, which showed greater demand for off-peak services. As sometimes occurs when new timetables are introduced, some teething issues arise that need to be reviewed and adjusted in order to ensure that the new arrangements reasonably address customers' needs. I understand that while the vast majority of this new timetable has provided much enhanced service to DART commuters now and enables the provision of additional off-peak commuter services from December of this year, some capacity issues have arisen. I am assured that IE is working with the NTA to iron out those problems. The main issue that has arisen is around capacity on the north side of Dublin, and Éireann has responded swiftly to customers concerned by scheduling additional morning peak services from Portmarnock and Clongriffin. From Monday 17th this week, there will be a 7:29 service from Portmarnock Station to Pearse Street Station. There will also be a service from Portmarnock to Bray. Clongriffin will have an additional service provided by IE at 7:45, which will run from Clongriffin to Bray. In summary, with these further services now added by Éireann, Portmarnock now has the same number of peak morning services as it had before the timetable change, and Clongriffin has one extra. Éireann has stated that it believes that these changes will address the frequency concerns from passengers from Portmarnock and Clongriffin and the capacity issues that have arisen, particularly at DART stations such as Harmonstown and Colester.
Deputy, 1 minute.
Minister, and hardly surprised that you're not taking responsibility, because that's a general trend that you've taken. Teething problems. Charlie Weston tweeted this morning, he takes the train every morning, it has never been on time since the 9th of September. The DART frequency that you allude to, yes, it's every 10 minutes now, but I understand there are shorter trains, so there's no increase in capacity. And at a time when, as a country, we're failing to meet our emission targets, at a time when we're trying to encourage people to migrate from their cars to public transport, can I ask your opinion on an example in relation to a commuter from Mullingar? The former 7:31 a.m. train from Mullingar, which I used to get into work for 9 a.m, now leaves 15 minutes earlier, but is scheduled to arrive 5 minutes sooner than the current train. The return journey leaves at 5:10 and it arrives in Mullingar 10 minutes later. So we have a situation where the busiest train, leaving 15 minutes earlier, to arrive 5 minutes sooner, and in the evening it takes 10 minutes longer to get home. That's an extra 20 minutes a day for a commuter who pays €3,600 per annum for the benefit of that service. So can I ask, Minister, when is the last time Irish Rail purchased rolling stock, and when will that rolling stock be delivered? And I heard you at the weekend on the This Week show talking about your budget priorities. And Minister, I was surprised to hear you not mention once that you have a priority for an increase in spending in public transport. And perhaps what is your responsibility is to ensure that the funding to Irish Rail is returned to what it was in the early 2008-2009.
Minister.
Oh, thank you very much indeed, Deputy Troy. I don't think you'd expect me to intervene specifically in the Mullingar route, and indeed you, I think, might be the first to criticise me if I did so. If you have got a particular problem in that route, and it appears that you have, the appropriate place to go is elsewhere, and you know that. It would be wrong for me to step in and say that Deputy Troy has made representations, and I want to ensure that his particular area is looked after in that way. Having said that, I sympathise if the passengers in your area are being discommoded by these changes. I think it would be reasonable for you to go to the NTA or to go to Éireann and make that case, and I hope you've already done so. As you can see, the changes that have taken place, as I've said, have not been universally successful. In certain areas, they've had to make further changes as a result of what's happened. And one of the features of this change in the DART expansion is that, in fact, the NTA and Éireann have been extremely flexible. And one of the qualities, I suppose, of a good transport service, public transport service, is that when you introduce measures of this sort, like the Lewis has happened as well, that you are prepared to be flexible in the face of passenger movements and passenger changes. And this is what has happened. And my guess is that in the case of Mullingar, which you mentioned, it will come under the same sort of criteria and scrutiny, and will get similar responses to the one which was won by Clongriffin and by Portmallett.
Final supplementary.
Thank you, Dascan Corley. Well, I use Mullingar as an example, Minister, and at the outset I listed out every area commuter line that is experiencing serious disruption. And the reason why we're experiencing serious disruption, Minister, is because quite simply we don't have sufficient rolling stock in our ownership in order to expand our services. That's fact. And I ask you a specific question. When is the last time Irish Rail ordered new rolling stock? When can we expect the delivery of the new rolling stock? And in relation to your interview on the This Week show this week, I asked in relation to your budget priorities for public transport, because you seem to go through many different departments but fail to acknowledge the responsibility you have, that you're fortunate to be charged with. You have a responsibility for public transport. And what can we expect in terms of increased budget? So people like the one person I used as an example, who are paying €3,600 a year, are not going to be, as a result of changes by Irish Rail, left with a journey time of 20 minutes longer a day. Would you take public transport if it meant you were going to be 20 minutes longer a day to get to work? I seriously doubt it.
Minister, 1 minute.
Yeah, I mean, the Deputy will be aware that despite his because his prophecies of doom, that passenger journeys on Irish Rail increased by 6% in 2017. And the DART and commuter rail service to which he refers carried almost 33 million passengers in the Dublin region in 2017, an increase of 6%. So it's booming. It's booming. And in answer to your question, what about procurement? The procurement process for additional DART fleet is expected to commence this year with a contract for approximately some 300 new rail carriages expected to be awarded in the second half of 2019. 28 refurbished carriages are to re-enter service in 2019. This will add capacity to a number of services. Éireann and NTA are currently assessing the availability of additional fleet that could be introduced to passenger services on the rail network across Ireland in the short term. So don't tell me that they're not considering this. We've got 300 there, and we've got also 28 refurbished as well. You asked me about when they're being ordered and when the procurement.
Were last ordered, and when would they be delivered? Is what I asked.
Now, if I might answer your other question about public transport priorities, there's an estimates process going on. You're probably not aware of that, Deputy Troy, but there is, and I will be making my public transport requirements quite clear during those estimates programme. What I was being asked at the weekend was in a completely indifferent capacity, and you know that perfectly well.